Hello?
Yes, Peter, if you want to call us to order, I'll drive the bus for a while until you're
that's super. And I would enjoy him in the terminal. That'd be super. I'd like to call the meeting to order. I believe we have a quorum. Peter Stalker here remotely. I hear Sean in the room. Who else is in the room with you, Sean?
We have Lisa McGee present and Stan Steiner also present.
Super. I'm going to step aside and let our vice chair do things. Thank you. I'm going to mute myself for a minute and I'll come back on when I can talk.
Okay.
All right. I guess I don't get out of my my Robert Rules of Order cheat sheet for a little bit here. First thing on our agenda is adopting the agenda. I would move to approve the October 2022 regular board meeting agenda. Do we have a second on that?
Second that.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye.
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 All right. We'll move on to approving our minutes. Not really seeing, after scanning over those, anyone have any comments on those before we move to approve? All right.
This is Peter. This is Peter. I do have a comment on the minute.
Sure, go ahead.
Just for the title, it's a small thing. I believe the officer position is chair, not president.
Oh.
That is correct.
I mean, unless you would like to be referred to as.
I didn't. I'm sorry to have to do that. It's just anyway.
No, good catch.
And
that's at both the 18th and September meeting. Yes.
Yeah.
And I even proofed these and changed some things. I should have caught that. Well, you got to stop telling us you're the president here.
Well, we'll see. I'm going to go back on mute. I'm sorry. I'm just, and I will lose you for a little bit. And I'll dial back in. I've got to take a train in to switch terminals. So sorry about that.
Okay.
All right. Then first, I think we need to move to amend, if I'm not mistaken, with the corrections. All in favor? I would. I'm sorry, Stan, go ahead.
You're making a motion to amend the minutes?
Yes, I'm going to move to amend the minutes of the August 18th, 2022 regular board meeting and the September 15th, 2022 voucher meeting to correct the title from president to chair. All in favor? Or wait, do I have a second on that?
I second.
Okay, any discussion? All right, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, and then do we need to, now that we've amended, do we need to still move to approve that?
You would approve them as amended.
Okay, and having made those amendments, now I would move to approve the minutes of the August 18th, 2022 regular board meeting and the September 15th, 2022 voucher meeting. And sorry about the dog barking in the background there. Do we have any discussion on that? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, I will move on to next. I cannot see who is on our call here. Do we have anyone present who would like to make any public comment?
There is no one but board members online.
All right, then we will move on. Do we have any correspondence?
Yet again, no correspondence.
It's all right, ghost town. All right, moving on to the consent agenda. Let's
to
get going.
move that on the agenda because Stella is not here yet. So we will move on to summer reading overview with Beth.
All right, perfect. Let's move on to summer reading summary overview with Beth Holmes.
There we go. Okay.
All right, good morning, everybody. My name is Beth Holmes. I'm the youth program coordinator for the library, and I'm going to be presenting this year's summer reading report. So I'm just going to go over the PowerPoint really quickly and then take questions at the end. So how our summer reading report works is that people sign up on Beanstack online or through the app. Reading time is logged online or on the app, and reading time equals raffle tickets. So for every hour read, people earn a ticket, and every activity completed for the children, which is middle school and under, they receive one ticket to put towards prizes. We awarded raffle prizes weekly, and we had in-person programming this year for the first time since COVID. We also had weekly do-it-yourself craft kits to pick up, to do at the library because they were more popular to pick up than actual people in person. This year we set goals for summer reading. We wanted to increase signups to 1,000 kids, which amounted to a 24% increase over the previous year, which we exceeded this goal. We also wanted to increase outreach to elementary schools, and we did this by delivering promotional materials earlier and completing the summer reading video earlier. That summer reading video gets sent out to the elementary schools and the middle school as well. And so our summer promotional video, as you can see playing, I'm sure you can find the sound somewhere on our website. We had this done by somebody professionally and locally. And this is how we promoted summer reading. This also went on our social media pages. And then we distributed summer reading calendars in print to all the public and private schools in the county. So here's some statistics for the birth through middle school, which we consider 8th grade. We had 1,010 registered, and they read over 950,000 minutes. For the main branch, which is here in Jackson, we had 938 kids registered, and in Alta, we had 72 registered. So breaking it down a little further, from birth through 5th grade, we had 871 patrons, and they read over 12,500 hours. Breaking it down even further because of the way we do our programs through Beanstack, we have a birth through pre-K, and there were 203 participants. We have kindergarten through 5th grade, and then we had 668 participants. And then we have a middle school, 6th through 8th, and we had 139 middle schoolers participate. Our participation was down just a smidge from last year. It's just a hard age group. So the youth services team manages those programs while the adult services, adult programmer manages the high school and adult programs. So these are some of the events we had. We had a book fair where when children signed up for summer reading, they received one free book that they could choose. We had STEM on stage. Paul Brewer from Salt Lake City came and did a magic show for us. We had weekly in-person kids movies. We had a kickoff foam party in the kids' backyard, which was a huge success. As you can see by the photo, it was soapy mayhem. And then we also did weekly take-home do-it-yourself crafts, which were self-contained, so it had everything that they needed to make the craft. So the prizes, obviously, that's what the kids really care the most about. Even though reading should be its own reward, kids do like rewards. And so we offered a variety of different things. We offered Lego sets and Polaroid cameras, backpacks, giant stuffed animals, gift certificates, craft sets, and more. So the breakdown, 10% of the participants won raffle prizes, and we awarded 109 raffle prizes. These are pictures from our book giveaways. So we gifted over 2,000 books to kids, which included the book fair for when kids registered for summer reading. And then also we partner with a Sproutmobile when they give away meals, and then we give away books. The Sproutmobile is a partnership with Whole Food Rescue, which this is the third year that we've teamed up with them. We gave a variety of books all the way from infant age all the way up to teen with young adult fiction. And we gave over 1,300 books away. For high school summer reading, we had 54 participants, and they read over 96,000 minutes. For adult summer reading, we had 390 participants, and they read over 450,000 minutes. And they submitted 69 book reviews. So here's a little graph to see the numbers through the last 4 years, from 2019 all the way up to this year, 2022. As you can see, we exceeded pre-COVID numbers. Mostly that's in the growth with adults. And that's because of the Beanstack platform that we use, and it has a mobile app, and adults really enjoy that. And so those numbers have just really gone through the roof. So Beanstack, this is the second year we've used Beanstack. It's easy to use. It has updated designs, interfaces, and a mobile app for users, but you can also access it through a website. Because of this use, everything was up this year. We also surveyed children's participants and their parents. And this is what we learned from that survey. The survey we used is Project Outcome. And 85% say they learned something new. 77% read more often. 75% enjoyed reading more. And 85% want to use the library more often. These are some of the feedback that we got. I'll read a couple. It kept my 7-year-old engaged and wanting to read more often so he could get to the next level. We have participated for the past 2 years, and all 3 of my children were very motivated to read each day for an hour in the morning and an hour in bed at night, even my 16-year-old. If you want to read more, feel free to look back on this. And so we do our summer reading program through support from the Teton County Library Foundation and Friends. So does anybody have any questions for me about the summer reading program or the summer reading report?
Hi, Beth, it's Lisa. Just wanted to say thank you so much. Those are amazing results and an amazing program. I missed what you said about the Sprout Mobile. That was my only question. Are you also giving books out via the Sprout Mobile?
Yes, we are.
Awesome.
Yeah, we gave over 1,300 books through the Sproutmobile.
So cool. Well, thanks again.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I would say this is an impressive report.
Thank you.
Detail, and I'm really glad you focused on the time kids read versus, you know, the number of books. So everyone has a fair shot at winning something.
And that's why we do it.
Yeah.
Just some kids can fly and some kids, you know, it takes an hour to get it through a chapter. And so it's a little more equal this way.
Exactly.
Beth, thank you so much for that. This is such a cornerstone program for the community. And it seems like the app is a real winner. Do you kind of, in the library's administration of that, are there any kind of troublesome, I mean, is it easy to use, basically, is my question for you. Do you ever have any issues with it? Anything you wish you could improve?
No, the app is a real asset, and it's not a beta version. It's gone through several different iterations with the Beanstack company, and they keep it maintained and updated. They're also really responsive to feedback. And so we had a few things from staff and patrons that they'd like to see. And so we passed that on to them. They actually have a core group of people who work on updating those things to make it more user-friendly. And so, but for the most part, it's really user-friendly. And you don't have to just do a summer reading program on it. We've run several other reading challenges through it. We're running a year one right now called 22 and 22, where you read 22 books in 2022. And then this past September, we had a space reading challenge month where people of all ages could read. And that was a partnership through Beanstack and NASA that we were able to participate in.
Terrific. That's all great to hear. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I am back in and I am able to talk for a little bit.
Very good.
Welcome back.
Thank you. And thank you, Beth. And thank you, Beth, for all of your great work. It sounded wonderful.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
And I'm going to encourage our library director to finish his 22 and 22.
We'll see. I am a little closer.
Are we ready to move forward?
Or backwards?
I believe
We're ready
we
for
are.
the consent agenda.
Peter, would you like
the consent
to
agenda,
take the wheel?
Do you mind?
No, please.
I mean,
please
Sean, you're
ahead.
doing a great job. On the consent agenda, does anybody want to pull anything from the consent agenda?
I see Stella online, but I don't see her. There she is. Okay, there we go.
But does anybody want to have anything from the consent agenda pulled for discussion? If not, we can approve it as presented. Hearing none, then I will take a motion to approve the September 2022 consent agenda.
I will. So
do I have a second?
I second.
All right. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, moving forward. Thank you. Public hearing, proposed meeting spaces and study room policies. I will move to open a public hearing for the purpose of hearing comment on the proposed meeting spaces and study room policies. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry?
I was just saying
Aye.
we have
Okay.
public here, Peter, so you can.
All right. Well, I have to open it. And then since there is no comment, I will move to close the public hearing to take public comment on the proposed adoption of the new meeting rooms policy and study rooms policy. Do I have a second to that?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Terrific. Adoption of proposed meeting space and study room policies. The staff report, please.
You've read the staff report. There was no public comment via email either on this. And so the meeting room policy and the study rooms policy are ready for board approval.
Well, then that is terrific. I will move to approve the resolutions to adopt the meeting spaces policy and the new study rooms policy as presented in the staff report with an effective date of November 1st, 2022. Do I have a second to that motion?
Second.
Do we have any discussion on the meeting spaces policy and the study rooms policy? Hearing none, sorry.
Is there any reason why we're waiting until the 1st?
Yes, we have some back end things that we need to do in the software, and we need to look at alarm system things. So it will take us a little bit of time to be ready.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving forward, the proposed library use policy and rules. Staff report. This ought to be a bit more discussion.
Sure, we've been working on this for about a year. If you reviewed the existing library behavior policy, you will see it's 2 lines long and is essentially an unenforceable policy. So we have worked, management team, staff, and most of the work has been with Abigail Moore, our county attorney. And I will turn it over to Abigail to sort of explain why the policy looks the way it does. If that's okay with Abigail.
Sure. It was important to have actual rules that are clear, concise, simple, straightforward, easy to understand. So when the staff needs to ask people to refrain from behavior, you know, it's clearly articulated, you know, what behavior is and isn't accepted in the library. A huge part of what makes library rules, patron behavior policies and rules enforceable is that clear notice be given to everyone in writing of what the rules are, that the rules be equally enforced by staff, that any penalties imposed for violating the rules be reasonable, and that you have an appeal process. Because it's a, you know, access to the library is a constitutional right for access, you know, to information under the First Amendment, and implicates free speech as well. So in order to have penalties such as asking people to leave for the day, or even going a little further should it ever be necessary, of asking them to having them not come to the library for a longer period of time depending on the behavior, you're really balancing, because that's a constitutionally protected right, there's only so far you can go. So the behaviors have to infringe upon someone else's right. So it ultimately becomes a balancing test between someone's behavior rising to the level where they themselves are denying the other person's ability to access and use the library. So that is why you'll see some of the language in the very first rule, which is sort of the catch-all, which behavior that can reasonably be expected to disturb and interfere or prevent other people's use is the type of behavior that you're not allowed to engage in the library. And that language might seem a little odd, a little legally, but I think it can be generally understood by people, especially with this more specific examples following. And it's also language that's been upheld by the courts. So that's the way it appears. So are there any questions? We put a fair amount of effort into this, both in terms of
Abigail, this is Abigail, I have to compliment both you, Kip, and the staff. This was a marathon process over the last 6 months, and it's really resulted in something that is clear, in my view, and very concise and explicit, and will help staff in deciding all the issues that they need to decide whether somebody's disruptive or not. So thank you.
You're welcome. And we did. I mean, after the staff did the initial drafts, and then I did some work on it. And then I actually, I went to the senior management meeting yesterday, so the staff could weigh in on pretty close to this version. We made a few edits, because of course they're their rules and they're the ones who have to enforce them. So it was important that they, bought into it and understood the balancing of the rights and that sort of thing. And I thought Kip and I both thought the meeting the other day with the team was very productive. People felt comfortable. I mean, a key element that I changed was that the enforcement doesn't happen by staff. They can ask people to leave. And if people refuse, then you call the police and law enforcement. It's not for staff to, arm wrestle people out the door. So,
Abigail, a quick question. To what degree are staff members legally protected, when they call out or bring up a disruptive behavior? I don't know if there's any, there have been any court cases regarding that. I'm just curious.
In terms of like personal liability type?
Yes.
I'd have to research that, but I would imagine they're covered by some level of sovereign immunity as a public employee performing your function. So all of us in the public arena are sometimes subject to civil rights claims under section 1983, but those are pretty rare, even more rarely successful. And the county steps in to hire lawyers and do all of that. But that's one of the reasons why it's important for the rules to be really clear about what behavior is prohibited. So we spent a lot of time, I did, looking up words, to make sure there was a general understanding and being just really carefully crafting. And this is a less serious rule, but for example, using the word consumption for beverages or alcohol, just things like that. So, but they're as protected as they are for anything else.
The subjectivity, I mean, obviously, as you've addressed this, and I think very well, that just makes it so tricky. So thank you for addressing that.
You want to try?
Yeah, it's so the lecture I always give, unfortunately, ends up being a lecture. Kip knows exactly where I'm going. He knows where it's going. So there's a constant tension and battle when you're drafting rules or laws at all. That is a particular fascination to me between having rules that set forth clear objective consequences, almost like a matrix. Like if you do X, then and Y and Z, then A and B and C will happen. But you can't, if you draft rules too much like a matrix where you just you punch in the behavior and out comes a result, you end up with staff and others, government officials, not being able to exercise their discretion. And the most powerful computer to figure out the best way to handle the situation is the human brain and human judgment. The flip side of it is you do want clear articulation of rules for equitable enforcement, because what you want, you're trying to balance against abuse of discretion by those human beings. That balance is one of the things we're always struggling with more complicated statutes, but also just simple library behavior rules. So the staff had asked yesterday a key question in terms of things like noise and odor and whatnot. It is an objective standard, so it's the reasonable person test. If you have a heightened sensitivity to noise or sound and someone's behavior or odor or whatever is infringing on your rights to use the library, if it's not a reasonable person would also be offended, then you're the one who then needs to move. So I told the staff, and maybe we should re-emphasize it with them every once in a while, that that's the standard. When you're trying to balance two people's rights to use the library, it's an objective standard, not subjective.
I had a quick question, just knowing how the library, the youth services, serves as this support for kids after school. And obviously some of those rules seem to suggest that was, youth behavior, running, chasing, backpacks all over the floor. And I'm just conscious of the fact that if kids are there, it's because their parents are working and can't care for them. Is there a separate rule for underage kids? Like if they are behaving in a way that requires them to be removed from the library, but the service the library is providing is a safe space for kids who may not have adult supervision otherwise. I'm just wondering if that was talked about at all.
That's funny, Lisa, because I actually didn't even think about kids when I was working on those rules. I was thinking about adults.
I would say, Lisa, that as Abby just explained, it does require some common sense enforcement. So you're gonna make some allowances that they're kids. If they go beyond what they're supposed to go beyond, if they're really disruptive, the library cannot act in loco parentis, and so we are not responsible for their care. So if they are out of control and do get asked to leave, we will try to call a parent, but which is stated in the policy, right? Peter? What, Peter? I believe that is stated in that policy as well, is it not?
Well,
that you will try and call a parent first.
Children yes. Under 8 have to both be accompanied and supervised by someone older.
Right. But it was older. The older children, I think, I thought I read in the policies that your first attempt is to contact the parent.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So, and I mean, some of the things that I played with was things I decided in part because of the ALA guidelines were written this way, right, that any suspension of anyone's privileges over more than one day, like staff can ask people to leave for the day. They get a warning once and handed a copy of the rules. And then if they persist in breaking either that rule that they were first flagged for, or even another rule, they are asked to leave. If they refuse to leave, then that's when law enforcement is called.
My wife
but
is
then any suspension longer
than no problem. Thank you.
Day, I thought should go to Kip. So
my as a follow-up to Lisa's question though, Kip, from a practical standpoint, has this been an issue in terms of having to ask a child to leave in the last couple, since you've been present in the library?
Not since I've been here. This is the first. We didn't have after school last year. We do have after school this year, and it's not been. There have been no issues so far, and I think most kids realize but they probably don't want to get thrown out if they have no place else to go. So I don't know that it's going to be a problem.
I appreciate that. Can somebody just show me in the rules, I have it open, where it says you'd call a parent?
I've seen it in there. I know it's there.
I'm just scrolling.
I read it yesterday. I just don't have it in front of me. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I'm just looking through all 31 rules.
So it's in the,
Can you
it's
search-
in the enforcement,
It's in the enforcement
enforcement.
piece.
On the last page, the top of page 5, if the patron violating these rules is under 18 years of age, library staff will make a reasonable attempt to notify a parent or guardian of the behavior and subsequent consequences.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks for the clarification.
There is rule number 9 would not fit toddlers and infants. But we're going to infer that you're talking about older, students and adults.
I would hope so, but
Yeah, but just, I mean, I don't know that it would ever come up where somebody would come back at the library staff because of that, but yeah.
well, I mean, Kip gave an example the other day when he and I were talking about the wording on that language about a couple that were engaging in behavior that was not appropriate for a library. I don't know if they were teenagers or, adults. But
Yeah, we have those issues at the university.
so. Yeah, are there any other questions about either a rule or the enforcement or process? I mean, so the animals rule, I added in more. It's actually funny, I added in that detail and then I went and looked in the animal behavior policy that's taken the field actually has that specificity in it. And that's because under the ADA,
Right. Service animal.
They're familiar that you can't really ask people with animals they claim are service animals to leave. And there's only like 2 questions their staff are allowed to ask. Someone who walks in with a dog or a parrot or a miniature horse. Right. But I thought
we have this in the park. The 2 questions are, is that a service animal? Which if it's a leading question, they will say yes if they're onto it. And then you're allowed to ask what service does it perform. Those are the only 2 questions legally you're allowed to ask.
Yeah, but I put the detail in the rule because I thought if people saw it, it might dissuade bad behavior. It might dissuade the people who do lie and say that it's a service animal when it's not. Would think twice if the rule was a little more detailed, even though ultimately there's not much that can be done if they are lying. So.
Right. Are there any other questions for Abigail? Well, if there are none, I would move to give notice and open the new proposed library use policy and rules for a 45-day public comment period, which would end in December, if my calendar counting is right.
Just in time for our December meeting.
Yeah,
okay.
and
Do I have a second to that motion?
Second that.
Can I pipe in on some procedural stuff real quick? Just because this has come up before, so this is a good another exercise in how the timing of things works. A couple of things. One is these rules are not written in stone. They're out for public comment. So in addition to any public comment received, it's staff or any of the board members or anyone all of a sudden has an epiphany and wants to change something. These can be changed up until, when they're adopted. It's the whole point of the 45 days. Sometimes people forget that. I think they're written in stone now, and they're not. And the other thing is, so this is the tricky thing about your board meeting is that the 45 days doesn't run from today. It runs from the date that the legal notice appears in the newspaper.
It's posted, right.
The deadline for the legal notices are Thursday afternoons. So we actually already have the legal notice ready to go that has the publication date for next Wednesday, October 26th, which we have to hit, because otherwise if it appears in the following Wednesday's paper, you literally, your December 15th board meeting is 44 days. So,
thank you, Abigail. That's
ready to go on that.
Thank you. That is a good reminder. So we have a motion, we have a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I call for a vote. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The next item is repealing unnecessary policies. Kip, do you want to address this for a second, please? Staff report.
Sure. As we've gone through creating the new meeting room and study room policies, and especially the library use policy that we just discussed, we've realized that we have 7 policies that are no longer relevant or they're unnecessary because they're covered in other policies. 2 of them, the records retention policy and investment policy, are no longer useful for the library because we've shifted accounting and funds management to the county. So we would follow their policies on those. So we just need to take these 7 policies off the books.
Terrific. I always love cleaning house.
Maybe more after this, but it's a good start.
Yeah, right. It's a good start. All right. Well, I move to give notice and open the rescission and repeal of previously adopted suspension of library privileges, safety in the workplace, solicitation, service animal behavior, record retention, and investment policies, as these policies have been or will be replaced by newer policies and or are no longer relevant to the work of the library or the board. Whew. Do I have a second?
I'll
second.
Is there any discussion about any of the general concept or any of the particular policies that are being rescinded, potentially rescinded? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Christmas Eve hours, staff report.
Sure. Christmas Eve falls on Saturday this year. Christmas obviously then follows on Sunday. Christmas Sunday will be observed on Monday. So the library will be closed on Monday. Per the county's HR policy, if Christmas Eve were to be on another day of the week, staff would work 4 hours and be paid holiday time for 4 hours. It doesn't address Saturday because for some reason the rules are written for an 8 to 5 Monday through Friday work week. So if I follow those rules and apply it to Saturday for the library would be open 9 to 1 and then closed. Staff, full-time non-exempt staff would receive 4 hours of holiday pay and also be paid for the 4 hours they work. And part-time staff would be paid for whatever number of hours they work, which would probably be 4 or 4.5 hours that day. So we just need to make a motion to open the library 9 to 1 on Christmas Eve and give full-time non-exempt staff 4 hours of holiday leave, if that makes sense.
It does.
I'll make a motion that well, I have to make a motion that we accept Kip's proposal here on that.
Stan, it's written out on the agenda if you wanted to do the motion as written out.
All right, I move to set Teton County library hours for Christmas Eve, December 24th, 2022 as 9 to 1 with full-time non-exempt employees who are scheduled to work that day receiving 4 hours of holiday leave.
Somebody want to second that motion?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
I would just want to clarify, if anybody's questioning, Peter, the non-exempt, it's because exempt employees are salaried essentially. And
Right.
So
Right.
they just don't receive the pay. They'll still be paid for a full
Right.
day.
Right. Beautiful. All in favor? Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Sean, may I ask you to take back over the meeting for about 10 or 15 minutes, please?
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Pardon me. Moving on to new library hours staff report.
Sure. As you've read in my director's report, by the first week of November, in theory, knock on wood, everything, the library will be essentially fully staffed. So that's one good thing. And as we've moved through strategic planning, we've learned a lot of what the community would like to see the library do through the community survey and through the community retreats that we've held. And one of the things that seems to be what the community is asking for is more library hours, specifically evening hours and Sunday hours. And if the library is fully staffed, we would be able to do that according to our scheduler. So management team has gone back and forth, and we weren't in agreement on every piece of this, but the consensus of the management team was that we would be able to open Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. We would be able to add Sundays and be open 1 to 5 p.m. And then Friday and Saturday, currently Friday is 9 to 6 and Saturday is 9 to 5. The consensus of the group was to make those 2 days aligned, and so make them 9 to 5. And the usage data currently says that after 5 on Fridays, there's very few people in the building. So that was our basis for trying to make those aligned so that people could understand those. Alta, there's really not much we can do with the hours right now, given the staffing levels there. So that's a bigger project. There was some interest in adding hours based on the community retreat in Alta. But there was more interest there in the changes in the meeting room policy. They're looking for community space. So they're more interested really in just the access to the community room there. But as we move forward through the rest of strategic planning, start looking at budgeting for next year, we will be able to look at Alta and see if we can add staffing and add more hours perhaps. But for now, Alta needs to stay where it is. So this proposal is just for Jackson. And when we get to the motion, whoever makes the motion, drop everything that comes after and Alta, because we're not going to change anything. So I would open it up for questions.
I have none. Anyone else? All right, then I will move to set the Jackson Library hours as Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m., Friday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., and Sunday from 1 to 5 p.m.
Oh, and can you add with an effective date of January 3rd?
With an effective date of January 3rd. Do I have a second on that?
A second.
All right, any discussion? Right, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Maybe before we move on to our other reports, Stella, would you like to jump in and go back to our financials?
We actually approved the consent agenda.
Sorry, I'm all, that's right, we blasted through that. It's the code, I tell you. All right, then other reports. Kip, director's report.
Sure. I'm sorry it's so long. When I printed it out, I didn't realize that I'd given you like a 10-page report. The main highlight is the staffing hiring situation. We have been successful in filling the administrative assistant position. That person, Lindsay Harris, I believe is her name, begins work next Monday. After a promotion out of Susan's collection services department, we have successfully filled her vacancy now with a part-time library assistant who's been promoted up. So Tara May, excellent candidate, will begin her work in collection services on November 1st. We have hired a new IT technician to help James out, and the new person's name is also James. So we have two James, both in IT, and he begins work on, I believe, the 1st as well, possibly, the 1st of November. And Rick has been successful in filling his half-time position as a facilities maintenance technician, and he begins work on November 3rd. And that just leaves part-time library assistants as the position that seems to always have 1 or 2 vacancies. So we just continue to recruit for that position. First Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday in November, I will be in Thermopolis and Worland for a Wyoming Library Directors Retreat. And we're going to be focused a lot on intellectual freedom, how to be prepared when challenges come our way, things like that. What else? After school, I'll just say that despite not having the activity bus stopping at the library, we are having a very manageable daily crowd of 20 to 30 kids, depending on the program and the day of the week. But it's quite manageable. The provider, the organizations doing the programming are very happy with what they have to work with. And we don't have any out of control kids, Lisa.
Yay.
Strategic planning, not too much to update other than to say that the community survey closed. We've held 3 community retreats, 1 in Alta, 1 in Jackson, and 1 with the community school kids. And so we've taken all that data. The planning committee has sort of stated in writing what their observations and what trends they see. We've submitted all of this to our facilitators, and after talking to one of our facilitators yesterday, they're actually meeting right now as well. So we should be seeing a draft of what the plan's going to look like very shortly. And we're still on target to meet a December deadline for the board to approve the new strat plan. One of the things that has come out of the strategic, or out of the survey and the retreats, are that we really need to focus on improving our Spanish collection in the library. And so we will be sending 2 staff members to the Guadalajara International Book Fair at the end of November. It's the largest Spanish book fair in the world, and a great opportunity to purchase new and popular materials in Spanish. So I look forward to that. And Housing Task Force comes up later on the agenda. So I think that's it. If you have any questions, I'm happy to try and answer them.
Oh, that's terrific, Kip. Thank you. I'm eager to hear what is discussed at your retreat. Actually, that'll be interesting to dig into, I'm sure.
I think some of the board members are familiar with Every Library, the organization Every Library. I believe at least now at this point maybe it's just Peter. But the state is contracted with Every Library to provide training and coaching on how to handle things like this. So they will be part of the retreat as well. So I think it'll be good for us.
Terrific. Thank you. Anyone else? Any questions for Kip? All right. I think I saw Diana there. Are we moving on to foundation report here?
Thank you. Right now, we have been very focused on our annual library benefit that's upcoming. You all may have noticed that we're actually moving that up to November 11th this year. It's coming a little bit sooner. And talking with the Four Seasons, December has been really growing in bookings and group events, and it's their intention to really provide the same robust local party you all have enjoyed in the past. And so in order to do that, they decided to move the date up to November 11th. And we received lots of feedback from folks who said they really enjoyed last year's event. A smaller size, I believe we invited about 250 folks to attend last year's event. And overwhelmingly, folks have said that they really enjoyed the extra elbow room and getting to see all their friends. So this year, our events committee opted to keep the event small. So we're not going to be releasing as much as 500 tickets in the past. We are going to be releasing 350 tickets, which we already have. So you may have noticed the article in the paper came out yesterday. So if you're not already have purchased your tickets, we encourage you to do so. We are excited. This year's theme is going to be 2 anniversaries, 1 grand celebration, because it is the 20th annual benefit. And it's also commemorating the 40th anniversary of the Library Foundation. And as always, we are very grateful to all of our sponsors who have been extremely supportive. We've increased our level of sponsorship this year, so we are excited about that. And just hearing the buzz, folks are excited about this year's event. So we look forward to that. Any questions about the event before I move on? Nope. Okay. And Old Bills, we just wrapped up Old Bills. Giving season ended on September 16th, and all of the data has been collected. So we're excited about how things went. Unfortunately, we did not achieve the same level of fundraising that we did in 2021. So we were just slightly under, but in doing an analysis of the data, there was a little bit of excitement in the fact that we recaptured quite a number of lapsed donors who did not participate in 2021. We also gained a few new donors, so we're excited about that. But there were quite a few folks that we were surprised didn't participate in Old Bills with us this year that did last year. So I believe the retention, I think we lapsed about 26% in unretained, about 26% unretained donors over 2021. So the committee and the board has talked about ways to really improve our end of the year annual appeal to try to recapture those, and just in talking to donors, finding out exactly, you know, why they may not have participated this year when they did last. But overall, we were really pleased with the level of enthusiasm that we got from all of the library staff who participated in our rush hour rally, who came out on run day to work in the booth or to join us at the start of the run. Also, we are grateful to the library board members who participated as well and did that. And overall, we were excited about the enthusiasm, and we look forward to starting our campaign early for next year. Yep.
Do you know how our performance compares to the overall?
Oh, all other nonprofits? Yeah. That is a great question. I really don't. I've heard a couple of things from someone at the Community Foundation who did share with me that some nonprofits shared that they too were down over last year, while others had record-breaking years. And so there was a discussion at the board meeting yesterday as perhaps just some, there are a couple of very large capital campaigns I understand going on in the community, one with the search and rescue, and that perhaps there could be a shifting maybe of giving intentions, but yeah, we haven't heard yet, Kit, that there's a trend. We've heard some say they were a little bit down, some say they had record-breaking years. So I don't know that there's been any trend. Thank you.
Anecdotally, I've heard that participation overall was down a bit in Old Bills, and the same that a lot of people found they were down, but there were a couple of big winners. So
that's what I heard. That's what I heard too, Sean, is that overall down participation was down across.
Yeah.
And I think I did hear a comment from somebody that last year was an anniversary year for Old Bills, so they had a really robust campaign and participation, and this year it just kind of was a little bit less. So I agree with you. So yeah, but of course there, that's one of our number of fundraising opportunities for the year. So we are not discouraged in the slightest, and we look forward to other opportunities to generate excitement for the library. And as far as our administrative updates, I would love to share that we have a new staff member. So we have a part-time short-term admin assistant. Her name is Julie Tobiasen, a very enthusiastic library user. And she was excited to tell me that her children got into the Night at Hogwarts event just under the wire. So she's really excited about that. She'll be working with us over the next 2.5 months as we close out all of our Old Bills thank yous and outreach. And then as we finalize, all the plans for the benefit, she'll be here through that. And then we also just added an additional board member to a vacant seat, and that is Alex McDougall from First Republic Bank. I'm very excited about Alex. He's very enthusiastic about assisting us as a member of our steering committee for strategic planning. He has a finance background. He's very involved in the community of Jackson. And so we are very excited. He officially begins in January. So that's why on my report it says announcement forthcoming, because he actually has his onboarding scheduled for next week. So he's not quite official, but we do have a verbal commitment. So we're pleased with that. And that is it for me.
All right. Any questions, comments? All right. Thank you so much. And on to the Friends. Do we have a representative of the Friends present?
We do not.
All right. Then we will move on to our committee reports and housing task force update.
Nina is not here, so I will give a short update. The housing task force only recently met since our last meeting in August that we gave an update, but we've been working behind the scenes. We're continuing to work on a draft case statement that will get presented to the foundation's executive board. And most exciting, I think, right now is that we have an event in mid-November. I think the date's still to be determined, but we do have representatives from the 3 housing organizations in town coming to the library over a couple of hours for lunch periods so that staff can go in, learn about the 3 organizations, what they provide, how they can help with housing. Those organizations will give an overview, and then staff will have a time for a little bit of Q&A with those folks. And we're also designing a small little zine that will go out to all staff, new and current, that explains what the foundation will do to help with housing, what the county does, what the 3 organizations do. And if we design a really nice one, the desire is to share it out with all county employees. And also, if our housing fair is a success and it works well, we will open that up to other county departments so that they can come and do it the next time we do it. So that's where we are right now, but some exciting things going on, I think.
Terrific, thank you. Any comments or discussion on that? All right, then we will move on to the upcoming tri-board meeting and a request for agenda items.
Yes, the next tri-board meeting is on Thursday, December 1st. And if you have items that you think should be discussed, please, I'm not actually sure who's hosting this time around. It's the foundation?
No, I believe
it must be the Friends, because I think we hosted the last one.
Yeah. Yes.
Anyway, if you have agenda items, just send them to me or Peter, and we'll make sure that whoever's hosting that meeting will get them. My guess is we'll have strategic planning to talk about. We'll have the housing task force to talk about. So those are the two big items probably, but if you can think of something you'd like us to address, please let us know.
Okay, great, thank you. County Commissioners quarterly update also coming up in December, and agenda items request for that.
I'm back on, if that helps.
Welcome
Sure,
back.
we talked about the BCC quarterly update.
Yes, well, it seems to come up a little bit more rapidly than once a quarter, but we shifted the meeting back to being really every 3 months as opposed to what was less. And so we do have a bit of a pinch in this next one coming up. But I would basically, my thought is this is going to be the strategic plan is going to be the main update point. But if there are other topics that people want to think about adding to it, I'd love to have you guys email me over the course of the next few weeks. I will get to writing this and sending a draft around and the last, probably just before Thanksgiving.
Excellent. Any further discussion on that? All right, a reminder of inclusivity training coming up on December 15th. Any,
yes.
Any...
Board meeting is December 15th, and immediately following the board meeting, I believe at 11 a.m. to 12:30, Christina Fuller Gregory, who's doing the staff training, will be providing a board training, and the foundation board and the Friends board have been invited to attend as well. So just a reminder that Thursday, December 15th will be a little bit of a longer day for you.
All right, excellent, thank you. All right, then we can move on to any matters from board members, staff, or supporting organizations.
I have a couple of matters I'd like to get the board to consider. It really has to do with more clarity. I've talked a little bit to Abigail, but cannot speak on behalf of the board. It's a little bit more clarity on when we do things like the BOCC meeting. If the board members are present, that is not actually a meeting of the library board. We are there to participate. I think it'd be helpful to formalize, have a formal opinion so that future boards can rely on that, you know, should they want to show up at the BOCC meeting when we are there to present our review of the past quarter. Along those lines, in writing the memo to the BOCC, I am covering matters that have been discussed publicly at a prior board meeting or has been in public in the public domain, and I want clarity that everybody is comfortable being able to help whoever's writing those minutes and notes in the future to be able to contribute to, you forgot this, or this is not exactly what we said. So in that editing process. So I was going to ask Abigail, with the rest of the board's permission, just to do an official, one pager that we are, my understanding is, Abigail, that you're comfortable with our being able to do that. And perhaps you want to speak for a second about that. But I would love to have just a formal opinion if it's the sentiment of the board to do so.
Yeah, I mean, I can speak to that for a few minutes now if you like, and I can also end or, give you a one-page outline. There aren't any bright line rules, but I can definitely give you some guidance both right now and in writing, whatever your preference is. But for immediately, since you sound like you have an update to do, I don't think there's an issue with board replying by email suggesting edits to your update, because it is recommending things that are already in your record in terms of what's happened in the library, as well as what's upcoming is usually also in your record, like the strategic plan dates in the future and that sort of thing. And it's also if more than one board member appears at the commissioner meeting when you're presenting your update, that does not make it a library meeting, but there are some things you should probably keep in mind should that ever happen, and any discussion happen at that meeting with the commissioners. I can go into that a bit more now or at another time as you prefer.
I think, Abigail, that would be something for another time. I think that what you're alluding to is if the commissioners ask us about something that might be coming up and we haven't really had a discussion about it, we really can't answer those questions. But I would prefer to wait on what you actually put down on paper and then have us all feel comfortable with what we're allowed to do.
I mean, the key thing to keep in mind is the minute anything, there's at least a quorum of you present, and what might be relaying information starts to drift into deliberations where you're actually deciding something. You might not be deciding it then and there, but you're talking about deciding it. That thought process needs to occur in your meetings in a properly noticed public meeting. So that's just the line to be careful of, is deliberations. But I can provide later.
Is everybody comfortable with asking, Abigail? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Just is there a distinction to be made, even if a quorum is present, if a meeting is not called to order, and everyone's sensitive to avoiding kind of deliberative discussions? Is there, I mean, if nobody formally calls it to order, is there a distinction there?
It can still legally be considered a meeting that should have been properly noticed and held in public. One of the things, in addition to emails, that I would give you a heads up is what they call serial phone calls, which I know some boards use, but you have to be careful not to cross a line. And unfortunately, there is no bright line rule. But if, like, when KIP or library board members, instead of talking collectively, it's collective meeting and decision making, and in order to bypass the collective, you're doing what's called serial phone calls, where A calls B, and then B calls C, and then C calls A, and all that. If someone were questioning that deliberations were happening outside the public arena of what is public business, then they can invalidate decisions, and I mean, the other thing to keep in mind is violations of the Public Meetings Act can result in civil penalties. For you folks as board members, the other thing to keep in mind is your phones can be subpoenaed if anyone were to suspect that things were happening behind the scenes, so to speak. So, those are some of the cautions.
Thank you for that.
Is everybody comfortable with my asking Abigail, or our asking Abigail, to sort of codify what we are and are not able to do? I just think it'd be helpful to have in our records, so that, you know, when none of us are on the board anymore, the next board has that in their pocket.
I think it's a fine idea.
Me too.
I have one other question for you, Abigail. Could you clarify for us? We have now moved to set our board meetings by dates and times by resolution in the first board meeting of the new fiscal year. Should we get into fiscal years and need to change those meeting dates for a variety of reasons, what is one, are we allowed to do that? And secondly, what is the process for doing that?
Yes, you're allowed to do that. There's a difference between what the low bar of the law. The law doesn't have a lot of requirements. It's a pretty low bar. And then there's what I always call best practices. So once you establish your schedule at the beginning of the fiscal year, you really need to try and stick to that schedule. You can have special meetings whenever you need to, and that is not uncommon. You'll see the Housing Authority Board and, you know, other boards have special meetings, either because something needs to be addressed quickly or because they can't make their regular meeting. So they have a special meeting in order to reschedule their regular meeting. As long as things are properly noticed, that's fine. I would not recommend amending your resolution that establishes your schedule. You would just notice a new special meeting.
Okay. So as a practical example, we have 2 board members traveling today. We have 1 board member also who is not physically present but able to be there by Zoom, and a quorum was going to be potentially an issue. And that was known about a month ago. And if would this meeting been able to be replaced by a special meeting that we could cover the same subject matter or not?
Yes, it could have, but there was another issue related to this meeting, and it'll come up for your December meeting, is that the legal
45-day period. Yeah.
The legal notice to adopt the new meeting rule policy and rules and study room policy and rules said that the public hearing to take public comment on that was going to occur on October 20th at your regular meeting. Now, if ideally you want to hit that date for that reason, you could move it, in my mind, after. So if you were to have the meeting October 21st, you could then put notice in the paper and put notices on the door saying the regular library meeting scheduled, board meeting scheduled for October 20th, due to lack of a quorum and scheduling conflicts, is going to be held tomorrow, October 21st. But if you were trying to schedule it October 19th, the day before, because of that legal notice on the adoption of the rules, someone shows up on the 20th to make comment on those rules, and you had the meeting the day before. So the day after, you notice the day before, you can't.
Super. That's very clear. Thank you very much. Those are my only 2 matters that I wanted to bring up.
All right. Anything else? Okay. Then moving on to something near and dear to my heart, the payment of library vouchers. Stan, since you took care of that, would you like to handle the motion?
I so move that we approve the payment of the library vouchers that are now all signed.
I will second that motion.
All right. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor? say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
All right. All right, with nothing else on our agenda here, would someone like to move to adjourn?
I sure would. I would like to move to adjourn the meeting, please.
You've had a busy one there. I will second that motion. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Thank you all so much. I appreciate it. Thank you for putting up with my travel today.